Good evening, I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Supervisor. I'd like to welcome everybody here to our Town Board meeting, May 14, 2014. Good to have everybody here and everybody that's watching at home, whether on your TV set or streaming live on the internet. Thank you for participating. I would note that the agenda and supporting materials for tonight's meeting are available in the rear of the room. They're also posted on our webpage, and they're always available through the town clerk's office for inspection during normal business hours. I'd like to start with the pledge to the flag. Louise, if you'd lead us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In case of an emergency tonight, we do have a couple of emergency exits. If you hear the town hall emergency alarm system, please immediately leave the room, either through the exit door to my right, turn right, go down the stairs, and exit the building through the rear entrance to the building, and of course move away from the building. In the alternative, you can leave through the two exits at the rear of this room, go out the front door to Town Hall, down the steps, and again, away from the building. Now, occasionally, technical difficulties may occur if you're watching on TV during that live broadcast. If you do experience technical difficulties with the live broadcast of this meeting, please contact Time Warner at 756-5000. That's 756-5000 if you experience any technical difficulties during that live broadcast. We're going to start the meeting with a couple of recognition proclamations. And I'd like to call up our representatives from Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, Dan Powell and Dan McHugh. Next week, May 18th through May 24th, is National EMS Week. You've probably seen the banners. We've got one up front here of Town Hall, but there's also one at the corner of Westfall and Winton in front of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance's headquarters, advertising their annual open house, and that's always held to coincide with National EMS Week. And we're very proud to work in partnership with Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, and we have a proclamation recognizing their work tonight. Whereas Brighton Volunteer Ambulance is the primary emergency medical services provider for the town of Brighton, providing 24-hour-a-day basic and advanced life support emergency response service in accordance with the state of New York and local medical authority. Whereas, in addition to providing emergency medical services, Brighton Volunteer Ambulance also provides other services to the town, including community EMS education, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, training, and AED, automatic external defibrillation training. Whereas the members of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance generously provide Brighton residents with first aid to walk-in patients, free temporary use of crutches, wheelchairs, and walkers, and free walk-in blood pressure screening. And the town of Brighton established the Special Ambulance Services District and continues to provide financial support through the district to support the work of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance in providing a most critical and cost-effective public safety service. Whereas the town of Brighton, during National EMS Week, May 18th through May 24th, 2014, recognizes the responsiveness of emergency medical service providers, such as Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, and commends the dedication of the over 840 EMS providers who serve their communities throughout this nation. Now therefore be it proclaimed that we, the members of the Brighton Town Board, do hereby congratulate the dedicated members of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance on this, the occasion of National EMS Week, and call on all of our residents to reflect upon the efforts of Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, their employees and volunteers, as they continue to provide critical emergency response services to our community. This proclamation is signed this day, May 14th, 2014, by myself and all of the members of the Brighton Town Board.
Thanks so much for this proclamation, Bill, and members of the board. We genuinely appreciate the support of the town in helping us to provide emergency medical services for the town. As an emergency medical service agency, we strive every day to go out and deliver medical care to sick and injured people with professionalism, compassion, and respect. And we're grateful for your recognition of our work. We'd like to invite everyone to come to our open house on Sunday in honor of National EMS Week. We're at the corner of Winton and Westfall down here, and from 1 to 4 on this Sunday, we'll be having an open house, so we'd invite you to come down and see what we have, see what we do, and meet some of the people that are there, some of the dedicated volunteers and staff that deliver this service. I also wanted to say in closing, emergency medical service is a team sport, and we get unbelievable support from the fire services and the Brighton Police Department. They also have emergency medical training, and they also respond with us in certain emergency medical situations, and they do a fantastic job. So we're grateful for their help.
Next week, I am again going to be privileged to represent Brighton Volunteer Ambulance at the New York State Emergency Medical Services Memorial Service in Albany on Empire State Plaza. This is because of our member, Zach Zhang, who perished providing first aid, and when the first tower fell. And that's all of that story. What's important this year is that the tragedy of 9/11 goes on, and such that 8 more names of New York City first responders are being added to the memorial. They are victims of illnesses and injuries sustained during the response and recovery phase. So keep these things in your heart. Remember, we must be strong, and you have wonderful people that are willing to run towards danger when others run away. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you and to everyone that provides service to this community as part of BVA. We are grateful for your work. The month of May is National Historic Preservation Month. And we also want to recognize 2 organizations that have been, for a number of years, so supportive of historic preservation here in the town of Brighton. And I'd like to ask Wayne Goodman, a Brighton resident, who is the Executive Director of the Landmark Society of Western New York, along with David Whitaker, who is the President of Historic Brighton, to please join me up at the podium. Wayne? David? As many of you know, I've been very pleased to be able to serve on the board of the Landmark Society, and am a member of Historic Brighton as well. So Historic Brighton is something that, historic preservation is something that's important to me. And I'm very pleased to be able to recognize these 2 great groups that do this work for us. I'm going to read excerpts of these 2 proclamations, one to the Landmark Society and one to Historic Brighton. Whereas the Landmark Society of Western New York is one of the oldest and most active preservation organizations in America. Whereas the members of the Landmark Society of Western New York, under the leadership of Executive Director Wayne Goodman, work tirelessly to raise historic preservation awareness and to instill a sense of pride in our area's unique history, and to encourage heritage tourism and community revitalization through programs such as Walk the Walk, highlighting African American history. 5 to Revive, highlighting properties in particular need of investment, and other comprehensive preservation efforts. Now therefore, we the Brighton Town Council do hereby declare May of our bicentennial year, 2014, Historic Preservation Month in the town of Brighton, and we pay honor to the Landmark Society of Western New York for all they have done and all they continue to do to protect and preserve our region's history. Signed this 14th day of May 2014 by myself and by all of the members of the Brighton Town Board. And I'll give this to you just in a second, Wayne, but let me read this other proclamation as well to Historic Brighton. Whereas, founded in 1999 with the support of the Landmark Society of Western New York, Historic Brighton, a private not-for-profit organization, brings the town's history to our community through lectures, research, programs, and publications. Whereas Historic Brighton is dedicated to fostering and presenting history, thereby revealing the dynamism of our history and its influence on our community today. And it serves as a forum for the discussion of issues surrounding the making and meaning of our town's history. And whereas during this bicentennial year, 2014, Historic Brighton has partnered with the town of Brighton to help bring Brighton's history to the entire community. Now therefore, we the Brighton Town Council do hereby declare May as Historic Preservation Month in the town of Brighton, and in commemoration of our bicentennial year, pay honor and thank Historic Brighton for all they have done and all they continue to do to protect and preserve our community's rich history for our residents and for our future generations. Proclamation is signed this 14th day of May 2014 by myself as supervisor and by the entire town board. And before I give up the microphone, which you know I hate to do, to David and to Wayne, both of these proclamations reference the partnerships that we really value during this bicentennial year. The Landmark Society partnered with us along with Historic Brighton in our reenactment of our first town meeting on April 5th of this year. A truly just a wondrous, dramatic presentation of that first town board meeting. And for those of you that were not there, and we did only have a limited number of spaces available due to the size of the Stone Tolan House, that video is available for viewing on YouTube. Historic Brighton has partnered with us on really every one of our events that we've conducted this year. We had a marvelous African American history event, Struggle Toward Freedom, which was held at the University of Rochester's Alumni Advancement Center in West Brighton, where we heard some really remarkable speakers and dramatic presentations, as well as the Garth Fagan Youth Ensemble. Then, of course, we partnered on April 5th. We just worked with Historic Brighton on a bus tour earlier this month that was highly informative for all of us that were involved. So thank you both, and thank you Historic Brighton and the Landmark Society for working with us as we celebrate 2014, our bicentennial year. And I'll give these to both of you and ask you both to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of our Board of Trustees and our many, many members in the Rochester area and across Western New York, thank you for this proclamation and recognition. But more importantly, thanks for the years of partnership, and as you had just described. It's certainly one that we as an organization treasure. You know, I thought about what the best way to convey my personal appreciation would be tonight, and I guess it would be just the fact that when I moved here from Indianapolis, going on 4 years ago now, and looked for a place to settle down with the family, I have a wife and 3 little girls. Brighton really just rose to the top very quickly. It has excellent schools, as you all know. It has phenomenal services, which you all should be proud of because you're certainly part of that. And the fact that it has an unbelievable cadre of people that care about the community and are always willing to lend a hand. And the fact that you really understand the fact that preservation is about more than just history. It's about our social, cultural, and economic fabrics. And it's very integrated here, and I think it really elevates the quality of life in Brighton. So with that, thank you so much for the recognition. We look forward to, well, I should say maybe the organization looks forward to another 75 years of working with you. I don't look forward to the next 75 years of looking forward, but I'm sure they'll be fruitful. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Great.
We have 17 board members plus the Brighton historian that work very hard for Historic Brighton, and we want to broaden our exposure to the town as much as we can. It's a great organization. We have wonderful presentations 4 times a year at least, and newsletters that are very, very informative. During the bicentennial year, each newsletter is 50 years, which means 4 newsletters. We've worked as a partner with the town and the Landmark Society. We're all Landmark Society board members. Wayne has done a wonderful job bringing Landmark Society to the towns and to the city. I'd like to mention they're there in the back. The ambulance, they took care of me in August this year. Did a great job. Got me to the front of the line at Highland Hospital, so I was in there immediately. It was terrific. But so far as Historic Brighton is concerned, we love this town. We want everybody to know all there is to know about this town, and we'll work to strive to do that. Thank you very much.
Great. Wayne and David, and I'd also like to recognize our town historian, Mary Jo Lanfear, who is also with us, who is just doing phenomenal work. You may have seen the publication that came out, published by the Messenger Post, which we have out on our front lobby, a photo history of some important elements of Brighton's history. So Mary Jo, thank you for that, and thank you for all you do as our historian and keeping history alive. We appreciate it. We're now going to begin the open forum portion of the meeting. As we deal with matters facing the town, we always encourage people to participate in the open forum, ask questions, make comments. You can do that here in the room. You can also do that from home by telephone. And if you would like to call in, the telephone number is 303-3060. Someone will take your call and relay them, your questions, your comments, to us. That number is 303-3060. If you're deaf or hearing impaired, you may call our TDD line to ask your questions or make comments, and that number is 784-5205. 784-5205 for the town's TDD line. We look forward to hearing from you with your questions and your concerns. Now, during the open forum period, as I've said, members of the audience are always welcome to address the board on any matter, whether or not it's on our agenda this evening. Now, what I will do, and the first item, we do have a presentation tonight. I'll get to that in just a moment, but once that is completed, I'll recognize members of the audience that wish to speak. When you're recognized, please come to the podium. If you would, we'd appreciate your giving your name and address. Comments should be directed to the board and not to other members of the audience. Please be courteous and try to keep your comments as concise as possible. Thank you. So we'll start the open forum tonight with a presentation made by Perrone Engineering concerning a proposal for a subdivision. The working title, I understand, of the subdivision is Pinnacle Hills. And Mr. Perone is appearing on behalf of Woodstone Custom Homes, Inc. And some or all of your group may be making the presentation. So the floor is yours. Maybe you can tip it just a little bit more so not only the camera but members, a little more, yeah, that's good. Thanks, Ed. Louise, you can still see? And you've got it there, good, okay.
Good evening, my name is Ed Perone from Perone Engineering, and we're here on behalf of Woodstone Custom Homes. I'm basically going to just introduce the project and then turn it over to Jeff, and he'll provide more of the detailed comments. Just so that the folks know, we have had a variety of meetings with the residents in this immediate area. Actually, we've had 2 meetings with them. This past week or so ago, we met with the Department of Public Works committee with the town board, and there were 4 of the board members at that particular meeting. This particular project was initiated about a year ago. We're in the beginnings of the stages of planning. We are going to be requesting incentive zoning for a 24-lot subdivision. And for the purpose of where the project is, this is on the immediate west of Persimmon Park, which is near Goodman. And it comes off of Holland Avenue, and it also is attached to where Warren Avenue is and Midland Avenue. Those streets actually come out to Highland Avenue.
Willard, you said Warren. I think you mean Willard.
Willard.
Thanks.
Did I say Warren?
You did.
It's not Warren Avenue. That would be bad, because there's no land there in Willard Avenue, or Warren. So with that, Jeff would like to spend a few moments. If I could, as an introductory, Jeff has been a developer in the town of Pittsford for the last 35 years. He builds the very high-end homes in Pittsford. He's also built in Victor. And just as a side note, he is doing a pretty exciting project in the city of Rochester in the 19th Ward, a brand new subdivision there, which the city is very, very happy with right now. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Smith from Woodstone Custom Homes to provide a little bit more insight onto the project.
Thank you, Ed, and good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. We will keep it short, and maybe if there are questions, we can get into more details. But as Ed was saying, the parcel is a 12-acre parcel to the west of Persimmon Park near Clinton Avenue and Highland. The parcel consists actually of 84 individual lots that were approved in the 20s. These lots are 5,000 to 6,000 square feet in size, and our proposal is to consolidate those lots into a new subdivision of 24 homes. Our alternative that we've examined many alternatives, but the primary alternative will be to live within the overlay zoning, which is known as RLL, which is a 1-acre zone. That would produce 1 lot per acre. We propose to produce a density of 2 lots per acre with the 24 homes on the 12 acres. There is a wooded EPOD identified on the parcel, as well as some federal wetlands identified in the parcel. We're well aware of those considerations. We've already done an extensive inventory of the wooded properties and found that they are of low value in as much as they're principally about 85% ash trees or cottonwood trees. And the prospects for ash trees are not good in the region because of even there being as close as RIT in terms of the emerald ash borer. So unless significant resources are spent in trying to preserve the trees, they're likely to be a dead forest within the next 10 years anyway. But because of the nature of the property, it's an odd site. The Willard Avenue, Midland Avenue were never completed, so they're technically paper streets, and that's what all these 84 lots are off of. It does have access to Holland Avenue, and that's what our proposal is calling for in terms of trying to develop the site in which we would have the least commotion to old neighborhoods. So we're only looking at 5 lots off an existing street, Willard Avenue, and then the new street would principally have a stop sign that would go out to Highland. We're undertaking currently geotechnical studies, traffic studies, flora and fauna studies, all of which should give us indications as to how best to design the subdivision. Our alternative, as I think I mentioned earlier, was an 8-lot subdivision, which we are still very prepared to do, but quite honestly, our feeling is that it doesn't fit with a neighborhood as ours would. Our proposal in the high 200,000 range, smaller lots, and as versus large lots entirely off of Willard Avenue. Considering flag lots, et cetera, we would be looking at an alternative of about 8 lots. And we're quite prepared to do that, although I think, quite honestly, given the housing needs in Brighton, given the nature of the site, our proposal, I think, fits better. And principally, the reason also is that we feel that we can afford with more lots to provide some amenities and benefits under the incentive zoning program that would be of assistance not only neighborhood but to some extent to the town as a whole. Specifically, we would propose on donating 2 acres of land to Persimmon Park adjacent to us. We would create a 1-acre conservation easement to our west, which would be a buffer and an open space requirement that would buffer Howland homes from our existing, our new homes. We'd provide a walking trail between Howland and Clinton through partly through Persimmon Park as well, which we found the neighborhood meetings have indicated that there is a need for. We would connect the 5 homes that are on Willard with sewer laterals up to their right-of-way of the lawns, which they could therefore tie into sewer immediately. We would also propose a sewer easement on our north property line that would potentially serve Midland Avenue for sewer. These areas are all on septic systems, very small lots. They're consistent with the same lots as we're dealing with on the 84 lots that we purchased. So sewers would be a very good thing for this neighborhood. By providing the sewer easements available and taking them out of our property, it potentially would allow for a number of new homes to be served, existing homes to be served. Additionally, we would be providing improvements to Willard Avenue, the existing Willard Avenue, in terms of resurfacing, new stormwater management with concrete gutters. And what we recently have proposed is in our stormwater management facility, which would be to our southeast of the property, we would divert some of that stormwater to a pipe system to Clinton Avenue, which should substantially relieve some of the stormwater problems that exist in the apartments to our south, which is 1600 Elmwood Avenue. And finally, as we feel is a benefit, is that we would have more homes in the appropriate price range of what's needed in the housing market in Brighton now. As Ed mentioned, we're doing some homes in the city of Rochester, another infill site. It's in Genesee and Genesee and Elmwood Avenue. And we've been there a little bit over a year now, 29 single-family homes, and we're about a third to half the way done. We are solely single-family specialists. Everybody's in the city as well as here, 2-car, attached garage, detached homes, smaller lots, but still very nice, well-built homes. Our history has been quite a bit at the high end. We've been diversifying for quite a few years into the 200,000 to 400,000 range as well. The new studies that we anticipate, we haven't done yet the geotechnical study, but it will determine the nature of the groundwater, the conditions that we have to deal with. what we have to do to design stormwater, et cetera. We anticipate that once we determine needs of the area, we can certainly design either our 8-lot subdivision or our 24-lot subdivision to meet those needs. We're here tonight just to give a brief introduction because it is something that we've been working on quite a while, and we're asked to share it and see if there are comments, questions from the board or from the members of the community. Our primary incentive zoning request will deal with the additional density. There will be many little things in terms of, because of the zone overlay zoning, we would have to specify the minimum lot width, which would be 65 feet. We'd specify the setbacks, et cetera, and those mostly would be consistent with the density that we're proposing, but they would have to be all delineated in our proposal, even including to the point where Brighton has a consideration for length of cul-de-sac of only 500 feet, and the cul-de-sacs and even the extension of Willard will be more than that. So that would be in our proposal as well. So there'll be lots of details that will be laid out. We did, I think, distribute or will distribute some copies, a little bit more detail to the board members tonight in case they can look at it later, and we're available at any time for questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ed. Yes, we did all receive copies of a summary along with a proposed map. I'm going to ask when we get to matters of communication that we add that to the record of the meeting as an additional item of communication. This is not a formal incentive zoning application. That may come in the future. As I think Ed noted, presentation in addition to the 2 meetings in the neighborhood, there was a presentation made to the town board's Public Works Committee, so I know a number of you here on the board have had an opportunity to at least begin to become familiar with this proposal and ask some questions. But if we can keep to a relatively short time frame, but if there are questions either from up here at the table or from the audience about this project at this time, as is always the case with incentive zoning proposals, there will be both an environmental review of the project, but also an incentive zoning review as required under both state and town law. In that process, there will be public hearings and a great deal of opportunity to discuss both the environmental impacts and the mitigation of those environmental impacts, but also the substance of the project itself, the magnitude and nature of the amenities that are provided, and the incentives that will be needed. So with that, if there are any questions concerning this proposal for Mr. Smith or Mr. Perrone?
Jeff and Ed, as I mentioned at Public Works, first of all, I appreciate how open you've made this, and you've engaged the neighbors in a couple of meetings here, which is the sort of thing we always like to see and frankly expect. This is the first I've seen of your 8-lot subdivision on paper here. And can you contrast the two in terms of the impact on the neighborhood at all?
If you go to the mic, please, Jeff. Thanks.
The 8-lot subdivision, I guess the principal difference will be that all of those lots, although not too many more, 8 lots will come off of Willard. Willard would be still extended, but rather than 5 lots off of Willard in our 24-lot plan, there would be 8 lots off of Willard. It would not be a thoroughfare by any means. There would be a dead end with an approved turnaround at the end. The big difference, too, though, with the fewest lots as we have, there we would be doing most of our stormwater management through local dispersion of water, rain gardens, and other green environmental methods. And rather than having a stormwater management facility, additionally, we wouldn't have, with that density, the ability to provide some of the other services in terms of extension of sewers and the easements, et cetera. So that, but the impact would be a little bit greater on Willard because there would be more homes off it, and less on Howland because we would not have an intersecting street brought out to Howland as we do in the 24.
Plus, Chris, there won't be a buffer zone or a conservation easement relative to backing up to the folks on Howland Avenue. In other words, the woods in that particular area will probably be taken out, because if you can see on that plan, the house pad will probably require that some of those woods will have to be removed.
In that case, that Lot 1 on the 8-lot subdivision plan essentially would be all developed as versus conserved. Our 24-lot plan preserves most of that adjacent property with Howland Avenue. So there's a little more protection provided in terms of the open space to Howland. We would not be granting acreage to Persimmons because we'd be utilizing that acreage for the 8-lot density. One of the items of your zoning ordinances and your building code and comprehensive plan is that when there are flag lots developed, you have to have 50% over the size of the RLL requirement. So most of those lots on the flag portions anyway would be 1.5 acre lots as versus 1 acre lots. So that's accordingly, that's why it's only 8 lots as versus technically 12 lots, so about 1 acre density on a 12-lot plan.
And one other thing you indicated about the impact, the development of an 8-lot subdivision is just really not in line with what is in the surrounding area. In other words, it would be very difficult. It's going to be more difficult to, if you will, market something like this to get the return back out on that particular lot, because these lots are so huge and so large as compared to the neighborhood. It just doesn't make good planning sense to do something like that. You may think that, well, yeah, you can get 8 lots and sure you'll be able to market them, but you won't market them because of the expense. The expense still for the utilities and the infrastructure are going to be there. As Jeff said, we still have to extend Willard Avenue. And then, this area really doesn't warrant, in our opinion, we're not looking at $800,000, $900,000 homes that would be something like that on this particular lot. Like akin in the town of Mendon, where they have very large lots, that is more traditional and more user-friendly for them to do that. In this particular location, we feel that we're still larger than all of the lots. Our lots are still going to be larger than most of the lots that are in fact, all of the lots that are surrounding us.
With the 24-lot
Yes.
subdivision. And the 8-lot subdivision would fit within the current zoning requirements?
Yes.
So that would be without any variance, without any incentive zoning approval?
I don't know about without any variance, but without incentives.
There won't be any variances, Bill, to the best of our knowledge.
Okay, all right.
To the best of our knowledge. Because the turnaround that's being proposed, that's acceptable in the new New York State Fire Code requirements. Okay, they allow for different types of turnarounds other than cul-de-sacs. This would meet that, so we could in fact make that case that we are going to be in compliance. We don't think, Bill, I'll leave it open. We don't think we won't have variances.
Understand.
And it's fair to say your preference is the 24-lot subdivision?
Yes.
Right. Our intent is that 8-lot subdivision would meet all current RLL requirements there, yes. And we can calculate them to 1.5 acre lots on the flags, and all of the setbacks, front, side, et cetera, do make RL. And to comment with Ed, I mean, it's not that it would be prohibitively expensive to develop an 8-lot subdivision and to market it, but I don't think that that's the right price point in this area, and nor does it meet the current housing need in this area. I would have no problem marketing higher-end homes there and get into this McMansion kind of problem of being outside of the range of the community surrounding it, and I don't want to do that. Simple as that. We're now building this 29-lot subdivision in Brooks Court, right off of Genesee and Elmwood, and they're very consistently designed with the smaller homes around, and yet smaller homes around will range from $35,000 to maybe $85,000. We're selling them at $185,000 to $285,000, and we're doing fine. This is an infill site. It has to be, because of the cost of new housing, et cetera, it has to be different than the 100-year-old houses that are next door. But it can be much closer aligned with that, and that's what we feel a 24-lot subdivision will do, as versus having large homes in the middle of much smaller lot areas.
One thing to consider, Chris, I'll leave it at that. With the, when you look at the 8-lot subdivision versus the 24-lot subdivision, the 24-lot subdivision, we're trying to provide that some of the existing foliage will remain. In the 8-lot approach, they'll be all privately owned. The homeowners can do whatever they want to do with those woods within the town requirements, but it's theirs now. Whereas in the 24-lot, we're certainly going to dedicate certain portion of the woods, wetland and woods, and the conservation easement. So we're trying to preserve, and if you look closely at the 24-lot development, it's really being tucked in and surrounded by open space. In all aspects, it will be surrounded by open space for the most part, with the exception of a couple lots that will back up to 1600 Elmwood Avenue.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that, or at least explaining that, because as I said before, I was pleased to see how the approach you folks and Jeff, your company, has taken in being sensitive to the neighborhood and that natural environment there in this developmental proposal.
Are there any further questions? Thank you, Jeff and Ed. We appreciate it. If, you know, again, if and when there is a informal incentive zoning application submitted, we will consider it as per our code. Thank you. On that note, we'll continue with the open forum. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the board upon a matter on the agenda or any other matter, please be recognized. And Judy?
I hope the long-awaited bicentennial picnic is on your mind, but it's on its way.
Judy, if you don't mind, just
Judy
your
Schwartz,
name.
179 Ashbourne Road.
Thank you.
We're 2.5 weeks away, which I cannot believe. This is our flyer. Everything is going to be just really great. It's going to be an old-fashioned picnic in many sense of the word. We're having a watermelon seed spitting contest and a pie eating contest, and we've gotten some wheel rims, and you can roll them along the grass and so on. 3-legged race, potato sack race, plus some modern things too. But there's going to be something for everyone: entertainment, music, food. You can bring your own food if you wish. It's on June 1st. From 3 to 7 at Buckland Park. And the committee is really a great group of people. I've really had a lot of fun working with them. And Ray, of course, has been coming to our meetings and has been very helpful. But I think this is really the first time the town has ever had anything like this in its 200 years. And so we welcome everyone, please, in the entire town to come out and have some fun. It's just going to be a nice, easy time. Cotton candy machine, which is kind of old-fashioned, but not as much as some of the other things. So do come and tell your neighbors, and hope to see you all there.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thanks to Brighton Neighbors United. Thanks to the Brighton Kiwanis Club. Those two organizations have been very active in supporting this event. The committee that Judy mentioned, again, volunteers giving their time here in the town of Brighton. We couldn't do it without you. And this really, I think, is going to be a fun event. June 1st, we have a number of corporate sponsors as well that will be recognized for their contribution to what is really going to be a fun family event. We obviously encourage as many people as possible to walk or bike to the picnic, but there will be, of course, parking. But it's going to be somewhat at a premium. We're going to have some parking in the park, but we're also going to have some off-site parking. But if you can, ride your bike, take a walk. It'll be, I'm sure it'll be 80 and sunny and a great day for that. So thank you so much, Judy. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time? Yes, sir.
sure it's up right side up. Hello, Brighton. My name is Kevin Gallagher from Penfield. You might be thinking this is going to take a while, but it's actually not. So, I'd like to start with a short story. I was riding my bike this weekend on Sunday. I had to jump a pothole over a storm grate. I have some photographs of that. I also forward it to your email so you can just take a look at it for informational purposes. But the point is that the storm grate, which is damaged, okay, the storm grate is exposed because of a pothole, and I also noticed that it's full of debris. And when I went back to take pictures of it today, I noticed it was filled with water. So it's likely that the water has contributed to the pothole that is formed there. Now, as a bike rider, I understand the risks. If I see it, I'm usually going 15 or 20 miles an hour. I only have seconds to respond, and I usually do a hop, front wheel, back wheel. The other unsafe alternative would be to swerve out of the way. Now, this ties into the board I put together a little bit later. In response to tomorrow's Monroe Avenue Safety Project Open House by the New York State DOT, I put this together. These are pieces from the documents I've provided in the past, which are reviews of the project and also reviews of other safety issues I've seen throughout the region. And just to briefly describe them from top left to right, the first one is regards to speed in the project. They have a chance to reduce the speed near 590 through a geometry change, but as far as I can tell, they're not going to do that. The center, there is a crash zone. Well, the other aspect of the project involves reducing crashes across the third lane of traffic. However, the last part of that lane, approximately 360 feet, constitutes between 30 and 37% of the crashes along that direction. So they may not be addressing a large number of crashes. On the far right at the top, there's a list that goes back 11 years. It is references correspondence between me and the New York State Department of Transportation, specifically an individual within the Rochester region. And I say this because over the long time period, there were many contacts, and he did not address the issue. It took 10 years for a partial response. And he is also prominent in the planning for this project. So I'm concerned about that background. On the far left, center down, again, I'm referencing storm grates. I've mentioned this to the state DOT that grates in the bicycle lanes are a potential risk when they're deteriorated or when they are recessed after repaving. Their response was a specific type of grate, and they don't seem to understand that the recess or deterioration is the actual threat. Because this is a bike route, and their intent is a shared bike and automobile traffic lane, I believe that they should do a better job of addressing those storm grates. In the center pane, they are proposing that, actually they are building the new left turn lane. And I'm not sure that that is an appropriate use of funding for a project designated for safety improvements. On the far right in the middle, I have a diagram that shows the network of failure that runs from not only the local level, but all the way up to the state level. On the far left at the bottom, there is a diagram that they have included, 3 different versions within their plans. This diagram goes back to 2010, and as far as I can tell, it's the basis for their safety improvements and their crash analysis. However, the diagram does not match the actual roadway. So I am again concerned that they do not understand the actual logistics of that safety issue. And on the bottom right is a form I put together. It lists the items I requested under a FOIL request. Several of the items, they're shown in red at the top, are items that they did not provide information for. Specifically, the size for a auto-only or a full-size U-turn, and also the geometry required for a lower speed entrance to 590. Now, as far as the meeting coming up tomorrow, for some reason, the New York State DOT has my contact information, my email, and my address, but they forgot to invite me. Now, there's a phrase that says, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, but I consider that to be unethical. So I'm asking permission to be present at the meeting with my board, with some flyers, so that people can ask questions about the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Gallagher. The meeting, just to address the last point, the meeting is, as you mentioned, it's the state DOT is conducting the meeting about the state DOT project. But obviously, it is open to all members of the public, wherever people live. So you are certainly more than welcome to be there. Tim, it's my understanding that they are planning an open house sort of format for the meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct, Bill.
In that format, I don't know exactly how, a separate, there won't be an opportunity, for example, as we have today, to speak to a group of people, because during that 2-hour period from 4 to 6, people will come and go. You're obviously welcome to attend. That much I do know. As to how the state will address your ability to bring in your chart and make people aware of the concerns that you're raising and that you have raised in connection with this project, that's really not for me to answer. But again, obviously you are very much welcome to attend. Just a couple things I wanted to, you referenced the foil. That was a foil to the state DOT?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. We have had, this meeting, frankly, was a result of some community concern. There was a meeting. There is quite a bit of history to this project. We strongly advocated, the town strongly advocated, this is a project that was originally scheduled for 2015. We advocated, given the clear indication that there was quite an accident history in this area, we asked that they move the project up, fund it in their 2014 capital cycle, and they did that. The state held a public meeting here last year on this project. And we later became aware as to starting dates for the project. And frankly, I thought it was important. I had heard from some community members who also thought it was important that they have another meeting. Yes, the project has started. I don't know how, whether some of the elements, whether there is room for any movement in what they're proposing. But I think it's important, if nothing else, that the public be aware of the various components of the project. It is a 2-year project, and ultimately will, in addition to the roadway improvements, include sidewalks along both sides of Monroe Avenue, which will, I think, be a significant safety and sustainability, much needed improvement to the area. But that's one component of the project. So they will be present. I imagine they'll be talking, among other things, about those various components and also about the staging, the time frame, and other issues relating to the project. So we certainly appreciate your input to the project, and again, extend an invitation to everyone from 4 to 6 tomorrow afternoon, the state DOT's open house meeting concerning the Monroe Avenue Safety Project. And that area of the safety project runs from Westfall Road down to Clover Street.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board tonight during the open forum portion of the meeting? Josh?
Hello, thanks. My name's Josh Barth. I'm the county legislator for the District 24, which incorporates a large portion of north central Brighton, and I'd just like to come to the town board meeting to give an update on an occasional basis. And I must say it's always one of my favorite duties because it's really interesting. You learn a lot when you hear just from the presentations. But most importantly now, I just want to mention that I really look forward to the upcoming event in Buckland Park with the seed spitting contest, and I'm really hoping that some members of the town board will participate in that and it'll show a lot of oomph and gumption. So I just encourage you to do that. Beyond that, I also invite anyone who watches to go to the Lilac Festival, which is also occurring right now. And it's a very fine event, and there's a lot of fun things to be done there. Although admittedly, no spitting of seeds. We may pick up on that later on in the future. I think that's a wonderful idea. So for a brief report from the county legislature, we met in the full legislature last night. There were a number of public speakers, and the vast majority of them were speaking on the question of whether or not there should be a casino in Monroe County. I just want to report, in fact, that is of interest to many constituents, both within Brighton and the city of Rochester and the county as a whole. The vast majority, in fact, all the speakers who spoke on the topic were against it. The fact is it's an ongoing question, and it's something that we all take seriously, and that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon. But it is something that we pay attention to. It is something we listen to, and I think you should know that. Secondly, I just want to point out that a very important thing is going on right now, and that is the county is considering revisions to the county charter. And the commission, which reviewed this process, gave their recommendations to the county legislature. And there is going to be a public hearing on this on June 3rd. And that's my primary reason for being here, is to point out that there is an opportunity for the public to speak on the county charter revisions. That's on June 3rd. That's a Tuesday at 6:15 p.m. in the county office building. That is actually immediately prior to the full legislature meeting. There are a number, if you go through the revisions, which can be found on the county website, there are quite a few of them. But the two big things I would point out are, one is there's an elimination of the requirement that the basis for the revenue estimates in the county budget will no longer be the case. So right now, they have to provide, the administration provides a revenue estimate and explains where this revenue estimate comes from. This is very important. The question is, what funds do we have to spend? But you can't answer that question unless you know what funds you have to pay for everything. And you can't be sure if that's accurate or not if you don't know what those estimates are based upon. So this is a concern for me personally. However, others, there's advantages to that, I'm sure, as well. I just want to point out that that's one of the major considerations that I'm looking at. And the other main change that I would note, and I find this to be less disturbing, and that would be to increase the county executive's power to enter into contracts without the approval of the legislature. Currently, if there's a contract for under $5,000, the county executive can simply go ahead and do that. And there's a proposal to change that to $20,000. And given the fact of increases in contracts and the amount that they entail and the number of contracts that there are, I actually find that to be a much more reasonable change to make. Now, that being said, the reason I point this out to everyone here is that you may disagree. And if so, please let us know. And one good way to do that is to go to the public forum. Another way, if you can't go to the public forum, is go to the county website and look up the email addresses of your legislators and contact them. Actually, for many people viewing, that would be me. And I'm quite happy to receive those emails if you wish to do so. And that's really why I wanted to point out to everyone and what's going on. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Josh, the first one, eliminating revenue estimates in the county budget.
Not revenue estimates, the basis for the revenue
The
estimates.
basis for the revenue. So we would not know whether they come from sales tax or property tax or pilot payments or anything else?
I imagine you would know, this is unclear how that would work out in practice. I imagine you would have a basis that this amount of money would come from pilot payments, this amount of money would come from property taxes. This amount of money would come from sales of properties or whatever. But there would be, it'd be in the aggregate. You would not be able to break it out and say, okay, we intend to sell this building for $1 million, and that will fund this particular program or this particular increase or whatever it might be. And that's problematic because the fact of the matter is we have revenues coming in from all over the place, and some of them are consistent and you can count upon them, and some of them are not. We've sold the same building repeatedly, and in fact, the revenue has never actually occurred. It's very difficult to find out if a budget is balanced and, well, frankly, good for the county if you don't know what you're working with. And that's very tough to do if you don't know the basis for the revenue, and I find that to be of concern.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Again, it's a pleasure. I'm going to go out and enjoy the weather unless it's raining again, in which case, if it's raining again, I'll stay here and watch the fine proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during the open forum? If not, then we'll continue with the rest of the agenda. I think I've failed to mention the town board meeting tonight started at 6:45 with a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person and a couple of matters of litigation relating to, well, actually, we got to one relating to a matter of property tax certiorari and also collective bargaining negotiations. We went into executive session at 6:45, came out at 7:02. We'll now continue. The next item on our agenda is to approve and file town board meeting minutes from the April 9th and April 23rd town board meetings.
Agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, yep, a motion to approve the agenda, thank you, Dan, with the addition to communications of the material that was submitted by Jeff Smith from Woodstone Custom Homes summarizing their project. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Now, can I have a motion to approve and file those town board meeting minutes for April 9th and April 23rd?
So moved, Bill.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. We have no public hearings tonight. We have no bids. Communication, can I have a motion to receive and file communications?
So moved.
And that's with the additional item that was added and submitted by Jeff Smith on behalf of Woodstone Custom Homes.
Second.
Jason moved, Louise second. Just a couple of items here. Correspondence from Kevin Bush that does relate to and responds to a letter that I submitted to the state DOT with some questions and concerns about the scope and some of the elements of the proposed Monroe Avenue safety project that Mr. Gallagher mentioned just a moment ago. In that letter, I had also encouraged that there be another meeting held by the DOT. They, of course, responded in that letter saying, yes, we'll schedule a meeting, and later that date was set for the 14th. I would also note, there's a nice note from St. John's home, specifically Brickstone. Councilmember Vogel, Jim was able to attend the actual ribbon cutting ceremony.
Along with Louise.
Along with Louise, and at their grand opening, which was on April 30th, and I got there after the ribbon cutting, but during the grand opening festivities. So that was a nice event, and we got a nice note from them.
Very nice.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file those. Any other comments on any matters of communication tonight? And if not, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner? Sorry.
Aye.
I'm looking at you, and it jumped to the top of the list.
Shake it up a little bit.
I'm going to go backwards this time. Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye.
It's kind of like doing the alphabet backwards. It's harder than it looks.
Next item, committee reports. Parks and Recreation, Community Services. Louise.
Parks and Brighton Parks, Recreation and Community Services met on April 28th, and we had a report from Matt Beeman, who said that all the fields are up and ready to use, that field number 19 at Meridian Center is being rested this year, so that one will not be used. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Waste Management has put new dumpsters in the parks, and they are multicolored and very visible, so people should be able to tell which ones are for recycling and which ones are for just garbage, and trying to get around the problems that they've had at the parks. The guest speaker, or the person that was emphasizing what she does for the rec department, was Nancy McCory, who is the chair of the senior recreation program. And she gave an overview of what her group does, the different clubs that they have, the different events and activities that they have every year, and the services that they have for seniors. It was very, very interesting. And if there's any seniors out there from 60 on who might be interested, you should go on the website and look at these programs and see what they are, and if there's something that interests you. And also call Nancy if you want to talk to her about it. The subcommittee reports are going to be online, I believe, and talked about the different youth and family programs that are being offered this summer, this spring and this summer, and the different what's going on in the different parks. The parks are all spruced up, ready to go, and people are starting to use it. The school district report said that on May 20th is the school budget vote, and they hope that everybody comes out to vote. And continuing education programs are midway in their season, and there's a lot of new interest in learning languages. And now they are offering classes in Spanish, French, Chinese, German, Arabic, Italian, and sign language. Excuse me. Library report, they were talking about the different programs they have at the library. They just had an annual, where is it? A contest for the junior high and high school kids, and was learning where they wrote stories. I'm sorry, I can't find it on here. And that was held in the evening, where they had the people that won. They're having their annual dinner on the 22nd of this month at Mario's, and they have a lot new programs with books sandwiched in, and different programs. If you want to get a little booklet that they put out every month on what they offer at the library, we have it here, and there's also at the library. And I wanted to give a report on my events, or the town's events, I should say. I'm sorry. My events.
But that you organized, and you ought to take pride in them, because you've got some great numbers to report.
Right. Wow. The first we had the 3 events, the recycling events, 3 weeks in a row. So if I'm a little discombobbled tonight, it's because I'm still recovering. But the prescription take back was held on April 26th, and we had another banner year and another banner event. There were 253 cars and 5 walkers that came through, dropping off 675 pounds of medications. To date, we have collected 7,644 pounds of medications, which is 3.8 tons. And I want to thank Tim Carson and his troop of explorers who helped us out, along with Bill Maley, Chris Werner, Dan Amon, and Chief Henderson. And the cost to the town for that event was 0. And Mark, you wanted to?
Actually, I think we took in 815 pounds of pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And 816.
816.
And that is the largest amount in all of Monroe County.
That's great. Okay, way to go, people. The next event, the next week, we had Clean Sweep, and this was successful again. The number of participants were approximately 400. I can't tell you exactly. I can tell you by how many T-shirts we gave out. In the schools, we gave out over 300 T-shirts, and I believe Marianne counted 181 waivers that were signed at Town Hall. So I want to thank Annette Hollahan and Heather Howell, who were my co-chairs and the volunteers who helped keep the lines moving at Town Hall. I want to thank Tina Blackwell, Shirley Jacobson, Karen Baker, Nancy Uffendale, Paul Holohan, Penny, and Jim Weller, and Mary Ann Husser. They all helped out at Town Hall and kept things going, and it went very smoothly. And of course, I want to thank Dan Amon, Jason DePonzio, and Tim Cars for picking up all the food for the breakfast and for the lunch. And the crew at French Road also deserves a thank you. Heather's team of elders from her church, Tim Carson, his Explorer troops, and Regina from Delta Labs, who set up a display for us. And of course, finally, I want to thank our food donors, Bagel Land, Great Harvest Bread Company, Mark's Pizza, Starbucks, Tops, and Wegmans, and our financial sponsors. Can I read them? Brighton Chamber of Commerce, Brighton Fire Department, Brighton Rotary, Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, Canandaigua National Bank, Dollinger Associates, Donna Matthews Beautician, Microworks, Ontario Hearing, Roselawn Neighborhood Association, Rustic Village Apartments, and Waste Management. And Waste Management also enabled us to get a $4,000 grant. So the cost to the town for clean sweep, $0. And finally, we had our electronics recycling and shredding this past weekend. I wanted to thank Bill Maley, Dan Amon, Chris Werner, David Marcus, Jim Vogel, and Renee Fisher and the Explorers for their hard work. We really, really worked hard that day. It was an exhausting morning. We yielded 13,845 pounds of shredding and 18,413 pounds of electronics. And that gives us, where's my total to date? Okay. Electronics, we have collected so far 155,135 pounds, or 77.8 tons. And shredding, we have collected 110,086 pounds, or 55.04 tons. And again, no cost to the town. In fact, the electronics people give us money for doing this. We get 3 cents a pound each time they come. So we have, I think we brought in about $1,600 so far. Interesting, when I asked for the statistics from the shredding people, they broke it down by saying that 13,845 pounds of paper, that is 7 tons, 118 trees were saved, 48,458 gallons of water was saved, 4,154 pounds of air pollution was eliminated, 21 cubic yards of landfill reduction, 28,382 kilowatt hours of electricity saved, and 3,184 gallons of oil saved. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the people of Brighton for coming out to these events, and even some people that don't live in Brighton come because their towns, or villages don't hold these. And I got, I think, within 1 hour the day before, I got over 13 calls about the shredding, mostly about the shredding, but wanting to know if, one guy called and said he lived in Webster, could he come? And I just said, I don't check passports. And but it's phenomenal. We had so many cars lined up all the way to Elmwood almost all morning long. We had 567 cars come through last Saturday. So I know Chris told me he wasn't worth anything the rest of the day. Neither was I. But it was wonderful. And the workers from the 2 companies, Iron Mountain and Maven, were wonderful to work for.
Louise, that's why I said that I was so impressed with the police explorers and Renee.
Oh, unbelievable.
Not only did those kids work hard, really worked, they were so pleasant and happy the whole time in comparison to one of the adult volunteers
we're sitting there.
Downright grumpy.
And they were smiling the whole time. And in fact, the counter that I brought broke after the last half hour. It was going by 10s instead of by 1s. But the kids, the same explorers were there for all 3 events, and they were wonderful. And I hope that you'll be able to tell them so.
Impressive.
We will. They actually are participating as a community service project, and then at the next town board meeting, we'll be formally recognizing Tim Karch. And
good.
his
Okay.
efforts with the Police Explorer.
And at the electronics and the shredding, it was Renee.
Yep.
And she worked really hard too.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Now, if we had 576 cars, how many did we have in the last,
We had
only 300?
375. The spring is always more. We started all these programs in 2010. So it went, the first spring we had 272. The second we had 540. Then the third 448, and this time 567.
I couldn't believe it. I got jammed up in traffic, and that was my excuse for being 10 minutes late.
Okay.
I was waiting in line to pull it.
Well, people were lined up before the truck even came.
Yeah.
And that's what got me nervous. I mean, Maven was already there for the electronics, but the other one was, oh no, what if they don't show? And all of a sudden the two trucks came in and they had 20 huge bins and they were constantly filled, all 20.
Well, Louise, thank you for organizing.
Great job.
We talk about sustainability a lot. Those numbers, 7 tons nearly of paper and over 8 tons of electronics
Right.
in 4 hours.
77 tons of electronics.
Well,
and 55, yeah.
over the history, but just on
Oh, yes.
one morning, that over 15 tons, it sounds like a Tennessee Ernie Ford song, kept out of the waste stream, and the Iron Mountain summary of the raw materials that
Right.
were saved really brings home what a sustainability project that is. So thank you very much for organizing that. Thanks to everybody that participated. Just one other thing, from that last Parks and Recreation committee meeting, there was a recommendation relating to parking along the Park Road into Buckland Park. That's something that has been discussed in the past, and the Parks and Rec Committee unanimously felt that it was important to have signage, but more importantly, to enforce parking restrictions along that street. Chief Henderson and Tim Keefe and I went out. We had met and talked about this. We went out to the site, did some examination of the signs that are already in place. And later on the agenda tonight, we're going to be setting a public hearing. That's the last item of new business, to formally establish that as a no parking zone. And in particular, between now and then, not only are the traditional parking signs going to be up, but very shortly you're going to see, official police department signage based on an administrative order from Chief Henderson that parking is not allowed there. And the reason we're doing this is safety. Traffic safety for our kids is very much on everybody's minds, unfortunately, again, here in Brighton. And so many kids use that park. They're excited to use that park. And what we've seen, and fortunately we've not had a serious incident there, but kids are excited to get out of their car. They want to get to their game. They want to get to the playground. And sometimes they bolt out of their car, bolt across the street, and with people parking there, the potential is there that they're coming across the street. You lose sight visibility. Kids come out from between those cars. So we think this is an important issue. We're asking everyone now not to park at any time along that Park Road from Westfall Road into the main parking lot at Buckland Park. There are signs in place, and we ask that you observe that. Until the effective time of the public hearing, when our official law banning parking there goes into effect, we are going to be, and the police department will be there enforcing. They will be issuing warnings at this time. But I really want to encourage everybody, particularly as we go towards this great picnic on June 1st, please do not park along the entry road from Westfall into Buckland Park. And let's help keep our kids safe.
Bill, before we go any further, Louise, I'm certain the audience is probably wondering when we will have the next recycling.
Well, we've been averaging every 6 months. The prescription one is dependent on the DEA. They set the date.
Yeah.
But we have been having them every October and every May, you know,
Okay,
or
so
October,
they know.
November. Yeah. And the next Brighton Recreation Community Services meeting is going to be May 19th at 4:30 at Brookside School. Everybody's invited.
Thank you very much, Louise. Chris, Finance and Administrative Services.
Bill, Finance met on last Tuesday, May 6th. Virtually all of the items discussed at Finance are on tonight's agenda, with the exception of discussion regarding the street sweeper, Elgin Pelican street sweeper that we're looking at purchasing. We're waiting on an estoppel notice on that, but otherwise we can wait to discuss those in detail as we go through the agenda. And the next meeting will be Tuesday, May 20th. Tuesday, again, in the stage conference room just behind us here at 3:30 p.m., and we encourage the public to attend.
Thank you, Chris. Jason, Public Safety.
Yes, the Public Safety Committee met yesterday morning, and among the items that we discussed actually was the town picnic that's coming up on June 1st at Buckland Park, and the coordination of the services that will be needed as far as parking. There are some off-site parking locations that have been identified, as well as involvement between BVA and Brighton Fire District, as far as having a large gathering of people for a 4-hour block of time for that event. And the event is new, so there's been the discussions then just to coordinate those services that are going to be necessary. Other discussions involved also the new parking restrictions that Bill just mentioned, that our public hearing is going to be scheduled for that on June 11th. We'll be setting that public hearing later on tonight. And there was also Tim had received an update from the New York State DOT regarding the intersection at Blossom Road and North Landing Road. Actually, Tim, if you could give us a little bit more of the details?
I'd be happy to, Jason. This was a request that we initiated last year, and the state looked at it. This is, if you talk to the police department or some of the residents up there, this has been a somewhat problematic intersection over the years, just because of the nature of the curvature of the roads and the speeds and some other things. So we asked the state to take a look at what might be done, including up to installation of a 3-color traffic signal for a 4-way, controlled intersection, which they're not inclined to do at this time, I guess is the best way to say it, though there are going to be other measures put up there for the stop, because it is basically controlled by a flashing red, yellow light at this time. Blossom Road has the flashing yellow, and North Landing Road has the flashing red. So Landing Road has to stop and yield to the other traffic. They are going to install some enhanced stop signs and some signage on North Landing Road, alerting motorists to the fact that it is a 2-way stop for the folks on North Landing Road, and that will include some LEDs and some other things that make it more pronounced from the standpoint of people that might not be aware or might miss the fact that they do need to stop at that intersection. So the state did leave open, though, that we could go back and revisit this pending the performance, and that might be something that we would want to do in after a period of time for having these improvements in, to see how they're working and go from there. So it's a start. I think that's the best way to sum it up.
And when dealing with state projects, a start is a good thing. It's just a matter of the intuitiveness, I guess, just to kind of make sure that we keep it on the top of the radar screen, which it appears that we've been doing with this particular project for some time.
Yeah, we have. Right.
Yeah. And another item that came up is that there's some discussions regarding enhancements to Highland Avenue in 2015. Some improved curbing and sidewalks, which will, for that stretch between South Clinton and Monroe, or actually South Clinton and the city line.
City line,
which is before you get to Monroe, yes. So, and that'll help hopefully alleviate some of the issues that have been brought to our attention continually over in that stretch. Just, it's now sort of an enhanced paved area, sort of an enhanced shoulder rather than a sidewalk. And perhaps then the actual curbing and a sidewalk will make it safer for pedestrians and recreational users, runners, cyclists, everybody that uses that part of Highland Avenue. Our next meeting of the Public Safety Committee, we meet on the second Tuesday of the month, so that will be Tuesday, June 10th. We meet at 8 o'clock in the morning in the lower level community meeting room, and the public is invited to attend.
Jason, was it brought up about we now own, is that correct, those signs on Elmwood Avenue that tell you how fast you're going? Because I saw the two of them now when you're going west instead of the one on each side of the street.
Right, we have submitted the paperwork to the county. Louise, I think it's a matter of just a formality for them to return the paperwork to us. So I would say until we have that, we're not officially in possession of them, but it should be shortly.
But they're all working now.
The two westbound ones are, the one eastbound one has been problematic since day one, and that is still not working.
It's going to be moved?
Possibly.
Okay, just one.
We did discuss that, Louise. Those were put in relating to the construction project on that stretch of Elmwood. And I've been concerned. We've gotten a number of indications in different ways, whether it's school bus drivers and concern about speed, but also about people passing school buses with their red lights flashing. But it's just been, it's clear to me, and we discussed, and Mark had data with him that the speeding issue is clearly more prevalent on the 4-lane stretch of Elmwood. In other words, from the 12 Corners to the city line to the west. And we did take action a couple meetings ago, and as Tim said, we're cleaning up the paperwork to formally take ownership of those. We're going to have to do a little bit of repair work to that one. But we did talk about, and we will, before we make any decision, it will be something we'll discuss formally here publicly. But I think we need to give very serious consideration, based on the data that Mark provided, to moving some of those monitors to this 4-lane section of Elmwood. We do believe that they have some impact on providing feedback to drivers. I don't think most people want to speed. I don't think most drivers want to put our children's safety in jeopardy, and I think often people don't know how fast they're driving. But when they see that flashing LED display, it brings it home to them. So that's something we'll take a serious look at, and I'm glad you asked that, because we did have a good discussion on that. Tim, thanks for a great exposition on the Blossom and North Landing Road situation. I do appreciate the state getting back to us. I was certainly skeptical, disappointed of their first decision not to put in a 4-way, and I'm still disappointed that they're not doing it. They did identify that there have been more accidents at that intersection than they would expect of an intersection of that sort with that traffic volume, significantly more. So I certainly believe that whether or not some exact data points are hit in terms of number of cars, that intersection is worthy of a 4-way light. But I do appreciate the fact, one, that they left the door open for future consideration of that, depending on performance, and two, that they are going to enhance particularly for Landing Road drivers, to really bring home that there is a stop there, and because of the sight lines, it's really important that people stop. So thanks for that. Anything else on public safety, the next meeting?
Next meeting, it'll be Tuesday, June 10th at 8 a.m., lower level meeting room, yes.
Great. Jim, Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works met a week ago this past Monday, And at that time, we discussed a number of items. One of those was the proposed Pinnacle Hill subdivision, which we just heard about tonight. And more to follow on that, but the idea of proposing, relating to the neighborhood meetings, I think is an important step for them to be taking. The other item we covered was, one of the other items was grants, the Monroe Avenue Green Infrastructure Project. Mike Guy and our town engineer advised the committee of the progress to date, and the plans that have been submitted to the participating agencies for review. Now, pending a review by these agencies, it's anticipated that construction will begin in the June timeframe. And matter of fact, it seems like some of that is already underway. Tim, comments on that?
Well, after the state has their project underway, which they started a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
and our project is out there, Jim, I'm hoping that you're still able to distinguish whose project is whose.
Yeah.
We will have our forces doing that. We will be working between the West Falls, Allen's Creek intersection up to the 12 Corners. And it's a much different nature of work than what the state's undertaking. I think if you've gone to any of the public information meetings, looked at what is being proposed, I think people were pretty impressed with what is being shown to, be done. And it's really from a green infrastructure perspective, but it's going to have an overall aesthetic plus to the that section of Monroe. So we're pretty excited about it. I think we're going to do it with our own forces, give us much more control. It should make a dramatic change in a lot of the look and also some of the environmental things that we're going to be able to do with stormwater as part of this project. So.
Yeah, good. And then, of course, with regard to the safety project that the state has now undertaken between Westfall and Clover, Bill mentioned earlier, we are going to have that informational meeting tomorrow night right here in the auditorium between 4 to 6 p.m. And that's really with regard to the Monroe Avenue Safety Improvement Project between Clover and Westfall. The other item, under new business, we began discussion on town code proposed Chapter 207 amendments regarding animals, treatment, numbers of animals allowed in residence, and so on. The draft code revisions were presented to the committee and were discussed at length, and that is still an open matter. We're going to have further discussions on that at our June meeting. Tim, any comments on that one?
I just think that it was good dialogue at the meeting with the participants that were there for that matter.
Yeah.
There was some, I would say, points brought up. That's why we put these things out in draft form. It's always good to hear a different opinion. So we'll resume discussions on this, but it is basically on the appropriateness of, the possession of some animals in certain zoning districts, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, good. And our next meeting will be Monday, June 2nd at 9 a.m. in the lower level community meeting room.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet.
Next item, we have no old business. Next item is new business. First item, reading and approval of the claims. Chris?
Bill, I've reviewed claims totaling $425,526.73. They appear to be in order. Some that caught my attention were $350 for the music at the Boomer Dance. Once again, I've missed that event, and must be my wife doesn't know about it. But, we've got $13,000 worth of new books and AV materials at the library. Dan has started his list of background checks, which is of interest. And again, Dan, can you mention how that works for us?
Well, yeah, anytime somebody wants to go door-to-door sales or includes flyering as well, they need to come to us for a permit. And one of the reasons is that is we run our own background checks on them to, obviously we're not endorsing the companies or products that are coming around, but at least we can run a check to make sure there's not people with checkered criminal histories that are going to be awarded permits.
Do they carry any certification with them to show that they've been through?
Yeah, they do need to carry their should be carrying their permits at all times, and a list of all the current permit holders are on the website under the clerk's page, and as well as there's a slide that comes through here on cable showing who's currently has permits.
Great. Well, the first of those appeared on the, in the invoices this month, this week.
That's the season.
Yep, and another sign of the season is the $25 permit fee we paid to the New York State Canal Corp for our fireworks. So that's coming up in July. But I find the claims to be in order, and I move that be approved for payment.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter is seeking approval to declare a 25-inch television as surplus with authorization for disposal through municipal auction. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Bill, the next item was discussed at the Finance Committee. It's to seek approval to amend the 2014 budget to reflect an increase in revenue funds of $610, together with an authorization to appropriate this sum as received as reimbursement from the project contractor for relocating 2 particular streetlights. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Tim, these street lights, or Suzanne, these street lights, the location? They're on, they're Monroe,
It's
right?
on Monroe Avenue, Bill, and sometimes there's confusion because the town does own some streetlights throughout town. At other times, RG&E is the ownership of these lights. I think what happened is, whatever repairs got made were done by the RG&E folks, or actually done by us, and and so we're getting reimbursed for these funds, nominal amount of $610, but it certainly balances the books.
Yep, good, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anything further? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is to approve amend the agreement with Chatfield Engineers to include construction observation services for Phase 2 of the Reserve Subdivision project. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion?
Bill, these are services, I believe, that are being reimbursed by the Reserve project. But again, this is to supervise the installation of various underground and above-ground facilities, just to be certain that they're done properly and in accordance with specifications.
Yeah, the scope of the project was such that we felt it was important to really formally contract with an outside firm. This is Phase 2. The second part of that, we did that, I think, successfully on Phase 1 of the Reserve project, so we'll do it again, and yes, it's fully reimbursed by the developer.
And I drove by the Reserve just yesterday and took a tour through. It's going great guns in there, and they're very excited about the sales and such. It's a beautiful project, and they're getting good response from the public, at least if you take the realtor's word for it. He was quite excited, though, about how the sales were going.
Any further discussion on that? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize the bid award for emerald ash borer treatment services to lowest responsible bidder, Genesee Tree Service, Inc., for a sum not to exceed $31,971.90, with approval for a supervisor to execute any change orders up to 10% of the contract amount. I move on the resolution as written by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about our emerald ash borer treatment and the scope
Certainly,
of it?
Bill. 3+ years ago, we made the decision when the emerald ash borer infestation, if you will, was moving towards the greater Rochester, Monroe County area to treat our ash trees. Jerry Peterson at the time did a great job doing an environmental analysis, not only just the cost of the trees, but what the trees provide as amenities environmentally to the town. And decision was made by the prior administration to treat these trees, which have to be done on a 3-year cycle. This year would be our year to treat, so we plan for this in the budget. The emerald ash borer, it is truly imminent now, I think is the best way to put it, Bill. That 3 years ago, it was on the cusp of, parts of the county. They anticipated, movement, particularly up along the Genesee River was where they figured it would move the quickest and then cross over. And it has been identified. It is in parts of town, out on the west side particularly, and it may be even in central or east, town. A lot of times it's there, before you even know it. So we're going to retreat our ash trees. These are all street trees, all town trees. And actually the prices, this is a great price because it's about $10,000 under what we budgeted for. So it's just actually just a little bit more of what we paid for 3 years ago. Very reputable contractor, and we're looking forward to keeping our trees, our ash trees healthy.
Good. And these are the trees that, as you say, are street trees, but there are a huge volume of ash trees in the town that will not be treated. Unfortunately, it's just not possible to treat them all.
Chris, we had a public information meeting a couple weeks ago for the general public to try to do some outreach for the private trees. The attendance wasn't that great. We did outreach to the neighborhood associations and some things. I'd hope for better attendance, but it's one of those things we'll continue to educate people. And Jerry Peterson is also involved with the Monroe County EAB task force. He was here as we had a really good speaker from New York State DEC come in and talk about this. So it really was very informative. If people have concerns or questions or comments, they can contact us. We can relay them to certain websites. We actually, if we can get part of the PowerPoint from the presentation, we will put it up on our website so people can actually access it and see that information readily.
Is it feasible for homeowners to treat their own trees, Tim?
Well, not, because you probably have to have an applicator's license or permit from DEC to do this. And we use a systemic process, so it's injected into the tree, so you have very little risk of, human or pet interaction or contact. There's other ways to do it that are not as, I guess, environmentally safe or as sound. And this is done early in the year. It's uptake with the tree, and it treats it from the inside out. And it's been proven, to be very effective. So homeowners would have to contract with a provider that would offer this service.
I understand the idea is to make your tree taste so bad that the pest will bypass it, but eventually they'll eat up all the trees here and then move on, which is kind of sad. But.
Right, any untreated tree will be, subject to probably once infested it'll probably die within 2 years, and then you have an issue of having to take the tree down, which is really the loss. And you can't replace some of these trees that are the size of these trees, the magnitude for the environmental features that they provide between the carbon uptake, the shade, all the aesthetics and other things.
So it's a matter of sustainability. One, we want to keep the trees, but the other, you looked at the cost benefit of treating the trees versus taking them down even in this.
Right. Absolutely.
And it really, 3 years ago and again today, from my perspective, this is a very easy decision to spend this money. Even if you just look at the cost of removing those trees, which will be close to the amount we're spending to treat them. But so much more goes into the equation: the aesthetics, the appearance of our streets. Right. You mentioned the environment, what a tree does to take pollutants out of the air. We're a tree city, and we're committed to protecting our street trees. We can't, though, we heard the presentation tonight, there are a lot of ash trees in some of our parks, including Persimmon Park, the area adjacent to where this development is going to take place. Interestingly, Tim, I can't thank you enough for organizing and working with the DEC to set up that meeting. I, too, wish that there were more people here. I wrote my column in the Brighton Pittsburgh Post about, as I said, that, there is wanted to inject a little humor into what's a very serious subject. There is a killer on the loose. It's green and about a half an inch long. And that emerald ash borer is going to kill all untreated ash trees in Brighton and throughout the area. It's not a game of, well, maybe my tree will be okay. To a near certainty, ash trees that are not treated properly will not survive this infestation, and this infestation will last. He couldn't give us a real time before, as Chris said, all the food is gone and the bugs will move on, but it'll be at least 10 years. So this is the time. It is present in Brighton, particularly in the west part of Brighton, but we don't know how far it's spread. And I think I would encourage homeowners to learn more about the emerald ash borer. We have a link on our webpage, on the town's webpage, to the state's emerald ash borer information site, which I believe the link is emeraldashborer@info.com.
That's correct.
And I do hope that residents of Brighton will take the time to look at this. One of the statistics that really shocked me is that Monroe County has the highest percentage of ash trees in its mature tree population of any county in the United States that is currently infested with the emerald ash borer. Approximately 20% of the mature trees in Monroe County are ash trees. Look around you, picture 1 out of 5 trees, and of course in some areas, and you don't have to go very far from Town Hall. Go just a little ways down Town Hall into some of our neighborhoods, Cobb, Hemingway, behind Westland, particularly in some of the moister areas, the green ash. Those areas are going to be heavily impacted. We're not talking 20%, we're talking more than 20% in some of those neighborhoods. So I can't stress enough. Find out if you have ash trees. Please make an informed decision as to whether you have your trees treated, and if you do, there are a number of reputable tree firms that have arborists on staff, and that's important, who are in a reputable way treating and providing, as Tim suggested, a couple of different types of treatments. I really want to encourage people to learn more, find out if those trees are present in your yard, and make a decision on treatment. It's an investment. It will cost you some money, particularly if you have a lot of trees, but particularly if they're trees that you're using now as buffer or to shade portions of your house, particularly if it's a tree that's in a fall zone where it's going to be somewhere near your house. Your choice really is going to be to pay some money to treat it and to keep that tree living, hopefully for a long time, versus the very significant cost to remove a very large tree.
And Bill, that is the salient point, is that depending on the size of the tree, it might be a fraction of a cost to treat it versus to have the tree removed in a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay, any further comment on that? We do have a motion and a second. If not, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jim?
All right, the next item is to approve the purchase of a trailer-mounted attenuator for the Highway Sewer Department at a cost not to exceed $27,245 from the lowest responsible bidder, Comet Flasher. And I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion?
This was discussed at FASC, and Tim, maybe you can tell us how we're going to be using this construction season.
Chris, it's a really nice safety feature that actually is being required for state DOT for working on their highways. And we got this specifically because of the Monroe Avenue GIGP. Now, both the highway and the sewer department can use this piece of equipment, and it's one of those things, if you see a state work zone set up on the expressway or something, and they have a line of trucks, the last truck in that line, or the first one actually as you're traveling, is the one that has basically the big pillow on the back, so that if you run into it, it basically protects the crew that is working, because that truck's going to absorb the impact, the attenuator will absorb the impact, and and that's actually, one of the things too that is probably lessens the impact to the car that hits it as well. So we have to have that as part of our safety operation in our work zones now, and and again, we always try to preach safety first with our crews. It's a good investment for the town, aside from being required by the state at this point.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Any further discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Next item, Chris.
Bill, this is a matter discussed at FASC. This is for approval of various budget transfers and appropriations to the 2014 budget to reflect changes made since the adoption of the same. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town.
Second.
Discussion?
Bill, is a bit of financial housekeeping that Ms. Zasso has recommended as Director of Finance, and it keeps our books in order.
Okay. Anything further? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. The next item is the town received last Friday a new incentive zoning application submitted by a Jewish Senior Life. I'm not the only one that keeps trying to say Junior Senior Life. Jewish Senior Life. This is a project that at prior town board meeting there was a brief discussion and presentation by Jewish Senior Life of the project, the greenhouse structures that are proposed to be constructed on the campus, as well as a new independent living building. And as a follow-up to that, they have now submitted to us this proposed incentive zoning application. The initial step that the town board would be asked to take is to accept that application, make a finding that it's the project is worthy of further consideration, and also to offer the opportunity to present sketch plans for a first review to the planning board. There was a transmittal letter with that came from council who is present here. It came with their full application as well as various drawings and the like. This, as with any incentive zoning proposal, is the very, very earliest stage of the project. It's a preliminary finding by the board that you do believe that it is worth, has at least on its face sufficient merit for further review, and it begins that review process, which will include both an environmental review, a review of the actual project itself, and a review of proposed amenities that are offered by the developer in connection with the project to offset so-called incentives, impacts of the project to the community. As I mentioned, council is here if you have any questions, but at least to begin any discussion before we take action, Louise, if you could. Make a motion in that? Yeah.
The next matter is to receive and file a proposed incentive zoning application dated May 8, 2014, from Woods Oviatt Gilman for the proposed Jewish Senior Life Project, and authorize submission to the Planning Board for review and report. I move on the, I can't think today. I move on the motion as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion.
Bill, this apparently is a change in the proposal for the site at the Jewish home, and I note that it's a greenhouse project. We've seen a couple of these proposals, which sound like a great idea, bringing folks out of a high-rise as an example there and down onto the ground level. And I see Mr. Goldman is here. I had a question to the extent that most of the greenhouses that we're seeing are one story, and it's mentioned in your letter of May 8th as well. But this will be 3 stories. Jerry, can you talk about that and why this one would be different?
There are a total of...
Jerry, if you can just identify yourself.
I'm sorry, for the
Thank
record,
you.
my name is Jerry Goldman. I live at 59 Branchwood Lane, and I'm the attorney and agent for Jewish Senior Life. On this application, there's a mix of 1-story and 3-story greenhouse buildings, and the objective is to try to provide these services in the typical greenhouse fashion without having the footprint expand throughout the entire frontage of the Jewish home site. The objective, and the primary objective, is to try to keep the total number of patients neutral. And we're doing that by essentially converting semi-private rooms to private rooms, and we are providing that. But basically what it is, it's a stack in the 3-story buildings of 3 floors, which would typically be the same as a 1-story greenhouse building.
And I know one other significant change is the, I wouldn't call it abandoned, but a change from the expectation of a private medical office building that goes back a few years in the approved project and instead would expand into that area. And you have some math that you've done about the difference about the, I think, an incentive payment and then a square footage charge. Can you walk us through the math on that?
Sure. And this still is something which is our proposal, and we expect that there will be discussion continuing. But the current incentive zoning has a price, if you will, for a pilot on a per square foot basis for the medical office building. And part of our objective in structuring our amenity package is to keep us revenue neutral relative to the town, at least, so that we are not causing any lessening of the amount that the town will receive. So whereas the square footage amounts as set forth in the original incentive zoning talked about something in the range of, I believe, 40 cents per square foot adjusted by inflation, anticipated that we'd be talking about a 50,000 square foot building, and you start doing the math, we can figure out what that math would be relative to the incentive payment. What we're proposing is what we believe is replicating the stream that we would expect to see from that as part of our incentive zoning program.
This would be a pilot payment, is that correct?
It would be.
And I think it's important to note, as Jerry did, that this is a proposal.
Oh, very much.
Both in terms of the amount and the manner in which it is structured. How it is characterized are all the subject and are going to be the subject of some continued
discussion.
Discussion.
We've been working on it, and to say what is on this piece of paper is not essentially where we started either. And I think that there's been a healthy discussion to date at the administrative level, and certainly that will find its way to the board level as well, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve a good result for everybody involved. If I can go off comment for a second, one thing I know is we've spent a lot of time talking about traffic tonight. For one of the first times, I actually came down and out by the Meridian Center and Winton Road traffic light at exactly 5 o'clock, taking my parents for a ride a couple nights ago. And I was amazed at the number of cars that were lined up in that particular area trying to get out of Meridian Center Boulevard and onto Westfall or onto Winton Road. The good thing about this proposal is that if there was a medical office building there, they would probably be joining that 5 o'clock traffic. Whereas when it comes to Jewish Senior Life, their shift changes are at 3 o'clock. So if their car's coming, it's going to create some off-peak and perhaps help with the overall traffic situation on the Winton Road corridor. That's not a formal benefit that we have identified, but I think it's a byproduct of what we're doing.
Well, maybe we'll see it later in the comments, but it's just my question about the pilot program and so forth is obviously reflective of the fact that the cost of services to these otherwise tax-exempt projects are of great concern.
Absolutely.
So we'll be looking at that closely. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And as the supervisor might have suspected by me lowering my mic, I just want to chime in and assure the board that the proposal that you see in front of you is nothing that the administration, staff, or I as attorney to the town have agreed to in any way. This is not our proposal at all. This is strictly the sponsor's proposal. There will be much discussion left to be had. And all that is being asked of you this evening is for you to say this is a proposal worthy of further consideration. That doesn't mean that we would be adopting it at all, frankly, or any part of it. So it's just that it's worthy of consideration, and then you as the board would pass it on to the planning board for further review and comment. And then we'll have plenty of opportunity in the future to express your opinion, hold public hearings, and get not only the matter of the pilot and the traffic, but all aspects of this project under close scrutiny.
Including the environmental.
Yes.
Yes, it's one of many steps as defined by the town code for incentive zoning.
Sure. Any further discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePontio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And Bill, if I may, the fact that this is worthy of further consideration, I think is reflective of the appreciation we have, and I personally have, for the services that the Jewish Home provides to our community and the wonderful care they gave my mother-in-law. It's a great asset that we have here.
And of course, Jewish Senior Life does encompass, the Jewish Home as we know it, but there are also other facilities that are on the campus that are providing services to seniors but to the community as a whole. And yes, that service, that work, including Marion's House, which is off-site, providing respite service for Alzheimer's families, Alzheimer's units right there in the main Junior Senior Life campus. Yes, we certainly recognize the tremendous service to all elements of the community that Jewish Senior Life provides. And we look forward to working with you. It's not always going to be, these incentive zoning projects involve a great deal of review and effort and community input, and we think it's a good process. And when projects are finished, I think there's been a great deal of proof and results, whether it's in the form of much of the open space that we have in the community, other development improvements to that open space, or other amenities to the town that make that sometimes challenging process worthwhile, I think, for both sides of the table.
And this project is one that has been in the works and in the making for quite a period of time already. And we do appreciate the input and attention that the town staff has given us, and guidance in terms of what we need to do along that process. And our objective really is to provide an overall project and an overall development which will be a credit to the town.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, the next item is the matter that we discussed earlier concerning parking. Louise?
Did we vote on that?
We did.
Next matter is to set a public hearing date of June 11, 2014 for consideration of proposed local law entitled Buckland Park Parking Restrictions that will prohibit parking along both east and west sides of the Buckland Park entrance road. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
We did discuss this, or I mentioned it and a few minutes ago. Any further discussion on this?
It would go all the way up.
It would go, that's right. The proposal would prohibit all parking from Westfall Road along that park road to the main parking lot. It will not affect the back part, the back driveway that runs from the rear of the parking lot back to the lodge at the very, what's now the very rear of
Wasn't
Buckland
there
Park.
some problems with that too, Becky? When you had the concerts at the same time that they had soccer games?
Not in the same extent that it is on the front, Louise. In the back portion, there's space for cars to pull off into the lawn area, whereas on the front entrance into the park, the cars are essentially in the roadway, which restricts emergency vehicles and things like that coming in.
The traffic volume to the back is
Is-
less,
right.
significantly less, most times.
And the people in the back aren't typically parking for the soccer games on those front fields. It's either concert goers on the evenings of the concerts or people driving back to get to the ball field. So it's a different sort of crowd.
But the highest volume of traffic would be on this front portion into that main parking lot, and that's a lot of traffic up and down. And as Bill said, with children moving about in and around those cars, and perhaps crossing that street, well, I'll be interested how the hearing goes. It is a matter of concern.
Yep. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Next matters of the supervisor, and I'll turn it over to Suzanne Zaso for the expenses and revenues, but tonight we'll just be receiving and filing her report. So if I can have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
It's the expense and revenue report for the period ending April 30th, 2014, monthly, and of course, as always, at the end of the second quarter, June, the end of the June month, Suzanne will make her usual thorough report.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We've really had a chance to talk about the two things that I wanted to speak to the community about tonight. One was the Emerald Ash Borer issue. The other, just a reminder again, the Monroe Avenue Safety Project, community open house run by the DOT for that DOT project will be in this room at Town Hall from 4 to 6 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday. And all are welcome. Again, as always, we had a little discussion earlier. Residents of Brighton or non-residents of Brighton are all welcome to these meetings. One other thing I want to mention, we are very proud of our school district here in Brighton. We have 5 school districts that serve the town of Brighton. Whichever part of Brighton you live in, please remember to vote in your local school district elections next Tuesday, May 20th. Matters of the attorney to the town.
I have none, thank you.
Dan, matters of the clerk?
I didn't have anything, but the communications, actually, as I was reviewing them, brought up a good point. Time Warner has notified us that on or about tomorrow, they're going to be making some technical changes. One of which that is a particular concern to the folks viewing this meeting is that this channel may go away for some of you out there. So if you do not have a cable box from Time Warner, if you have one of the converters or you just have the coax going into the back of your television, if this channel goes away, they're saying that you just need to do a new channel scan, and it should reappear. So if anybody out there is, again, if you have a cable box, it will not be affected. But if you just coax into your TV and with one of the converters, this channel will, amongst others, will drop off sometime any day now. And you will just need to do a rescan of your channels for it to reappear for enjoyment of one of the replays of this meeting or before the next meeting in 2 weeks. The only other side note is I attended the New York State Town Clerks Association meeting a week or so ago in Saratoga Springs, and accidentally, admittedly, as I was searching out a dinner one evening, I actually ended up at the Empire State College building that they were touting when they were here, and their lead certified building that they had built there, and it's quite in person. It's a beautiful building. So if we get is what they've told us about from what I saw that building, it's definitely going to be a jewel over there on Westfall. It should be really nice.
Thanks, Dan. Tim, I know staff has been working very diligently with Empire State College staff on their proposed building project on the Finger Lakes Development Center on Westfall Road. Any update for the community on when, where they're at and when we can expect construction to begin?
The latest that we had, Bill, and we are ironing out some last details, and actually they had some details to work out too with the neighboring property for their sanitary sewer connection. So I believe they're anticipating a second half start this year. Okay. I do not have an exact date for you.
Okay. Thank you. Matters of the board.
I would like to just mention that this Saturday, we're going to have in the county here, the Armed Forces Day luncheon, which is an annual event. Saturday is the Armed Forces Day, officially recognized throughout the United States. And we are having this event, this luncheon, at the Diplomat Party House at noontime this Saturday, and all the public is invited. So, Bill, I know you're going to be
I'm going to be there, absolutely.
Yeah, and so will I.
Bill,
anyway, the public is welcome.
Can you talk about what's going to happen on Veterans Day or Memorial Day?
Memorial Day? Sure. We will, again this year, have a memorial ceremony honoring our veterans that gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country and their families. And as we know, we've had a number, including 3 in recent years from Brighton, who were killed in action serving our nation. But we will be holding that ceremony at 2 in the afternoon on Memorial Day, on Monday. And one of the things that I think really going to make this year special, and Becky, the wreath, last year was our first year holding this event with our then newly dedicated Veterans Memorial. We had a wreath, somewhat more traditional wreath, but Becky did some brainstorming and just came up with what we all thought was a beautiful concept for a wreath for this year. I don't know whether you want to even let it out of the bag or
No, well.
But we can at least say who will have made it.
Well,
Let's
I
just
can
put it
tell
that way.
you with great enthusiasm. It was a project in collaboration with our after-school program kids again over at the recreation department, and I kept trying to give it to them, and the weather's been so nice that it finally broke. I couldn't bear to make them stay inside to work on this project. So today the rain came through when the kids were there. I expected, they'd do a little bit, and I'd have time to take it down to the seniors and have them work on it a little bit as well, but they gung-ho and blasted through the thing, and it's done. It's hanging on my wall in my office now as we speak, and we're very excited, and there's a collaboration going on with the kids in the community, but also the senior program, to also be adding an embellishment to it as well. So we're super excited. It'll be a nice piece commemorating Memorial Day, but also the bicentennial for the town, and also the men and women who are on the veterans service list that the town has been hosting since the start of the memorial project. So kind of ties all those little pieces together, and it's I'm really excited now too. So it'll be fun.
Becky has been our, really our primary staff for organizing, again, this year our Memorial Day activities, and that's an important. And Mary Ann, absolutely. You two have worked together on that, so thank you for what I know is going to be a moving event. Thanks for reminding us all of that, Jim. And of course, as always, thank you to our cable TV staff for bringing this meeting out, not only over the digital airwaves, but also on the internet through your computers. Thank you. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss two matters of litigation relating to the Clover Blossom facility, as well as property tax certiorari litigation relating to Atlantic Hotels?
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody that attended tonight. We will not be coming back into open session after the executive session, so appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you at our next town board meeting, May 28th, and have a good evening. Thank you very much.